I'm so happy to have you today. Before we get into it, I know it's going to be kind of super random, but you have really nice teeth. I know it's like completely like super random here, but I'm like looking at you now, just chatting, and I'm just like, she has really nice teeth. And like, I don't know. I always like, for some reason, just like to tell people that. I don't know
Thank you.
why. It's like, I guess it's kind of like weird, but you're probably like, wow, this girl's kind of like, we just met like 2 seconds ago, and she's like, oh, your teeth is so nice.
No, we must be kindred spirits, actually, because my children say to me all the time, because I'm the first person to like notice somebody's smile in their teeth, and they're like, "Mom, you
Really?
have like made me now so super conscious about people's teeth
You're
and
so
smiling." So
welcome.
yeah, I think it's funny. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm
I
excited to
appreciate
get into
that.
our conversation. So before we get into that, I like to always go deep into my guest pass, so create a foundation so my listeners can get to know you. So I know you've been through a lot, and you're a caregiver for your daughter, I believe so. So let's get into like your experience with that, with being a caregiver at such a young age. Okay.
So, my daughter Tatum is 25 now, but she was born when I got pregnant with her. It was like from day one. I would go in and they were like, "Oh, congratulations, you're 6 weeks pregnant," and then 10 weeks. Congratulations, you're 6 weeks pregnant. And by 12 weeks, it was 2001. Technology wasn't where it is now, but I couldn't explain it
Hmm.
anymore. So she just literally stopped growing in utero. But like all the ultrasounds looked fine, and they would throw out all these theories. First, they said that she had something called trisomy 18. So I had an amniocentesis, and it didn't come out that way. She was fine. But then they, kept throwing like syndromes, and so we really didn't know what was going on with her. And, there was kind of this belief like, okay, well, when she comes out, we'll figure out what's going on. But she came out and like the mystery just continued. Most of the stuff we
Hmm.
were dealing with when she was young was medical malpractice. So, we were able to put her diagnosis on the back burner. But really, we went through 40 surgeries with her to repair her throat where they had,
Hmm.
damaged it. And just kind of like buying time because by the year of like the age of 1, she was 8 pounds running around with like 0 to 3 month shoes.
Yeah.
And she just wouldn't grow, no matter what we tried. It was difficult. I don't remember a lot of it. I
Yeah.
think the human brain is miraculous and it allows you, like childbirth, to get through really, really tough times and get on the
Hmm.
other side of it and not remember how difficult it was to get there. But, it was difficult in the respect that I was young and I didn't have any friends with special needs children. So it almost it made me feel like I was in this club of like, you're different than a regular family. And I don't mean to say regular, but, someone who isn't dealing with some medical needs
Yeah.
and physical. So it was isolating, not gonna lie. And it took many years to, maybe
Hmm.
shed some of that protective layer that I always had for her. Cause I
Yeah.
always was like, don't look at her. She's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. Yeah, so it took me a while, so I guess to accept that she
Yeah.
isn't like everyone else, and it's okay, that she isn't like everyone else. Because that's a hard as a special need parent, in my opinion, that's a hard thing to do, Here I was trying
Hmm.
so hard to make sure that nobody else was labeling her, when really the person that was probably labeling her the most was myself and trying to protect her. It's kind of a weird and
Yeah, I was gonna say,
complex,
I think like,
battle that you fight with
and I like
yourself.
talk about this a lot in like other episodes when it comes to like getting into our own head and worrying about what others. I mean, you're worrying about that because it makes sense, you know. You're a mom. You want to make sure that your kids are being like not bullied or not being seen as um like not, I guess, like not normal or which which she is. So I mean it's completely normal, and I think as human beings, when we see that happen to other people, we automatically assume it's gonna like happen to us. So I can also put that kind of fear, and maybe why you were having those thoughts is like other like outside like external factors that like created like those those internal thoughts. Does that like make sense?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think, as a woman, the minute you get pregnant, you've already planned their wedding. You've already figured, you have all these like dreams and plans, and it's hard to readjust those
Yeah.
without feeling some sense of grief, really. And then I found
Mm-hmm.
that I felt really guilty for feeling grief because as a mother, you're supposed to accept them
Mm-hmm.
exactly as they are and love them. And you do, don't get me, in fact, you cling harder to them, but you do have to reconcile that it's okay that they're not going to be exactly what you hoped they would and accept that,
Mm-hmm.
my theory was always, I'm going to make her the best she can be, whatever that looks like. But
Mm-hmm.
that did put a lot of work into her trying to fix her all the time, which, as a parent, is
Mm-hmm.
kind of exhausting to try and I was always trying to fix her, you know? And when I just let her be her is really, I think, when we both started healing and just living our lives and stopped worrying so much about what other people were thinking. Were they staring at her? Were they making her feel bad? Were they
Can you
making me
talk
feel bad? And we
about the
just
healing
lived like
process?
everyone else.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Think healing really is
Yeah.
accepting that you're disappointed because that feels bad to feel disappointment. Think learning to forgive yourself for having
Mm-hmm.
natural feelings and normal feelings and recognizing that they are because you tend to beat
Mm-hmm.
yourself up so badly. Like, I should be better than this. I should accept her as she is. And I think healing is just coming to terms with trying to, or figuring out what's really important. And in the scheme of things, it's not as important that she makes change, or that she can count to 20 as it is just that she enjoys her life as it is and does everything
Mm-hmm.
she wants to do, not what I want her to do or not what the world wants her to do. But just, always striving to allow her to
Mm-hmm.
live her life authentically, doing what she wants, not what other people expect from her. And I think once I was able to um, let go of that, accept it. I think a lot of healing just naturally happens when you stop trying to hold
Yeah, and
on
that
to
takes a lot of
something that's,
courage to
obviously not working
realize
for you.
that and have that self awareness. So I want to say I'm proud of you for that because, like I said, it does take that a lot of courage. And so, like, how are like current day? Like, do you by any chance like still struggle with those thoughts? And if you do, like, how do you cope with it? Like, what do you do when you have those thoughts?
I think that now I struggle more
Mm-hmm.
with feeling sorry for her because she can't do everything she wants to do. And I've had a hard time, she's 25, but yet she can't really be a 25-year-old. Mentally, she is. And mentally, I think the hardest part is that
Mm-hmm.
she knows that things are different for her. So I struggle with that because, I try to get her into groups or find a job for her, whatever that looks like. And she's
Yeah.
lonely. And as a mom, you want to make all of those things go away. But unfortunately, you can only do so
Mm-hmm.
much. I think that that's an ongoing thing, just trying
Of
to
course. Yeah.
I'm always trying to be a better human for her, and I do have 6 children. Sometimes she gets the shaft because there's
Four
6 of
dogs.
them, and I'm running around, and 4
Wow,
dogs,
girl.
and, uh, 4 dogs. So I think just trying to find the time for her and not feel bad all the time that, I'm not finding the time for her. It's a constant, it's constant readjustment of how I feel about myself, how I feel about the
Yeah.
situation.
So far from listening, learning about you, you think 6 children, 4 dogs, and then with us, your daughter has special needs. Now I know that you've mentioned before we got on here that your husband passed away from cancer, which is another like on your plate. First, I want to say I'm so sorry for your loss, but let's talk about that and like what happened, like what how you like going through that and such while also having everything else on your plate. Mm-hmm.
So my first husband's name was Colin, and
Love
we met in
that.
grammar school. So he was like
What
my first
grade?
kiss. Yeah. I mean, we separated for a couple of
Oh,
years,
that's cute.
met back up again. We were in 6th grade. Yeah. Well, he always says,
She wasn't
like,
mine.
when he was alive, he would say, like, she wasn't mine, which he thought was hilarious. But he was my first. Yeah. I always said he was my first kiss, and he'd be like, but she wasn't mine. Um, but yeah, it was almost meant to be. We
Mm.
did part ways for many years, met back up again after college. And it was like immediately, it was like, this is what I've been missing in my life. So, probably within a year, we were living together. We had my first son and we moved out to the suburbs, and I wanted a big family. So we ended up having 2 miscarriages. And then we stopped trying, and along came Tatum, our special needs daughter, and all of the stuff that came with that. So after she came out, like I said, still, we thought we would lay eyes on her and know, but we still didn't know. And we were traveling around the United States and had airway reconstructive surgery and proceeded to have two more children. I had a 10-year-old to 6 months in Tatum, and he just started not acting like himself. He was very engaged. He was a great dad. He was always, involved and funny, and he just was something had changed. You could feel it. And he was back and forth to the doctor with stomach problems, but he was a trader down at the Board of Trade in Chicago, and I knew he was under a lot of stress. So I finally said to him, because we're having this big party, like, you need to go to the hospital, stop
Mm-hmm.
letting them tell you nothing's wrong, figure out what's going on and get back because I need you. Within a couple hours, I was called or I showed up at the hospital to find that he had tumor on his pancreas and several lesions in his liver. So at that point, we were told he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And, their prognosis was not fantastic. They said he had about 2 weeks to live to, take him home, let him say goodbye to his kids.
Yeah,
But,
you're really
I'm
strong.
not a person that gives up real easily. So
You
I
are. Take
went
the
around.
compliment.
Well, I don't know. Thank you. But I okay, I'll take it. I did some research and he got into a trial and he was doing amazing. We were like rock stars because he was proving this drug worked. And we almost went to have surgery. Unfortunately, he took some time off. And when he came back, it started to spread and they kicked him um, out of the trial, and things from there just plummeted. And we lost him in 2009 after about 16 months of battling very, very
For
hard
those
to
I'm
stay here.
listening, like, just give me just a moment. I just gotta process everything. I probably should have mentioned. I need
I
to like.
know.
I'm
I
gonna
feel the
obviously cut
same.
everything I'm saying right now out. Just letting you know. But I need to like start mentioning before I begin recording. If there's a moment where I'm like kind of like staring at you, it's just me. I just need to like process. I know. I realize. Yeah. Yeah. I just like I need
You're
to be like
fine.
more
It's a
transparent because I
lot.
realized I
It's a
was
lot.
doing that. I was like just looking at you and I'm like, crap, I don't want her to think I'm like rude or something. I'm just like staring at her. But I'm just like processing like everything you've been through and we
No, I didn't
still
think you were.
or like the next thing we're going to talk about is your second marriage and what you went through. And so let's get into that. Your second marriage, like what happened there? Like financial abuse, emotional, financial.
Well, emotional, financial,
I'm sorry.
some physical. That's okay.
Yeah,
Actually,
I
I would
heard
say that
that.
the physical
Emotional is
was
the
probably the
worst.
least destructive, if you can imagine that. Yeah, it is because there aren't any scars there. You can't look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I got hurt. And it is just torture. I'm not going to lie. After Colin passed, I had traveled around the United States with Tatum for years trying to save her. And then the years of trying to save him. And I had another baby that had no brain tissue. So it was,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, a rough decade of caregiving Tatum and Colin. And, I gave it the year after he passed, everyone else was just coming to the table and grieving. And I was on the other side. Like I had grieved every day
Mm-hmm.
for 16 months. I had lost a piece of him every day. So as everyone else was just like feeling the loss, I was almost like, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit in this anymore. I want to move on with my life. And I think that I really didn't understand how much baggage I had. I'd become so good I was trying to shelter my children, trying to shelter the people I love from the devastation that we were feeling. So I was very good at bouncing and everything's fine. And, because I wanted my children to have a regular and a normal childhood that was filled with joy and good times, not just the sad. So I became very good at ignoring what was going on in my life and pretending that everything was fine. I was perfect. I was moving on. And there was a gentleman working in my house, and he was much younger than me. And he had just broken up with his
Mm-hmm.
fiance. And, I think misery does kind of love company. And I almost looked at it as if you're broken, I'm broken. Let's get together and heal one another. But unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
he, he wasn't honest with who he was. He really painted himself to be something other than he was. And by the time the fog cleared, I guess, I think coming out of this caregiving situation with Colin, who was my best friend in the entire world, and for 16 months, you know, I watched him die, lied to him,
Mhm.
necessarily so, saying, "Oh, yeah, we're going to chemo," when I knew we weren't. It came to the end where I literally had to tell him daily. He'd be like, "Oh, are we going to go to chemo?" His faculty's gone. And I would have to say, "No, Colin, this is the end." And although he didn't have the wherewithal to feel it, it crushed me every time I said it. When I got into the second relationship and he would say to me, "You're a horrible human. Everybody hates you. Nobody likes you." It was easy for me to believe because I didn't like myself. So I accepted it and it was almost cathartic because I didn't like myself and I didn't recognize that. And I thought I had put it in my past, and I don't know if I would allow someone to treat me that way if I had not gone through those 16 months. I would like to assume that I wouldn't, but who knows? I think I was just at the right time for someone to come along and really take advantage of where I was emotionally and my
Right.
need to please and to save and to really redeem myself. So that led into really, allowing somebody to change my outlook on who I am and what I'm capable of and what's inside
Yeah,
for about a
I totally
decade.
get that where the whole misery my goodness. Misery loves company, and yeah, I totally get where you're coming from on that. It's kind of crazy how the human brain works and how we attract and how we like like do you ever feel like, you said that you have moments of feeling like you don't like yourself. And then do you think that you subconsciously knew that you felt like you just I guess like you deserved that because you had moments of feeling like I guess subconsciously feel like you deserved. I mean, obviously you don't deserve the abuse, but like I guess you'd have moments of feeling like that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I
Mhm.
again had lived a charade. I first of all, I was born a pleaser. My
Mhm.
happiness for so many years was tied to making other people happy. And so my inability to save Colin really, when someone believes in you so much, and I really think he did believe that I could save him at many times. And when someone believes in you that much, you start to believe it yourself. So, yeah, when he said people hate you, I thought, yeah, I can see why they do. And when he said nobody likes you, we have to leave, you have no family, it rang true to me. It made sense to me.
Mhm.
And yeah, it almost felt good. It felt cathartic to, again, it was almost like, it felt like redemption. If I paid my dues and I said I was sorry enough and I could make my new situation go right, then I could undo what happened in my past. And I know from just hearing about trauma that that's what people do. They put themselves in the same position as they were previously, hoping for a different outcome or to work out their past situation in their new one, and they continue to perform the same things. And that's what was happening. It was like all those years that I was trying to tell everyone everything was fine and I'm great and smile. You said something about my smile. I'm really good at smiling. I smile through the pain. And that was just more, I think those things that
Yeah.
serve us really well during times of crisis, like getting through it. If we don't recognize, if we don't recognize that they're coping mechanisms, they're not meant to be things that you live your life doing, and I didn't, and I just kept on keeping on even when I saw how truly destructive it was. I felt like it was my responsibility this time. I was not
Yeah.
going to lose another person. I was not going to lose another
Yeah.
relationship, and
How
I
do you
felt
feel
solely
about
responsible for it.
yourself now, going
So,
through the
yeah.
healing? Like I want to talk about your current day, like how you feel about yourself now. Of course. Yeah.
I think it's an ongoing, as I said, healing, forgiving, all
Mhm.
those things are very ongoing. I can't say that there aren't times when
No.
I don't think, well, gosh, was I the narcissist? If you're a thoughtful person, well, I'm just saying, if you're a thoughtful person, you never give up
Mhm.
the
Me
ability
too.
to see the other side of the coin. And I'm so good at seeing the other side of the coin. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, unfortunately, people take advantage of that. But I think that what I try and tell myself anytime I start feeling like I deserved it or like I did something to bring it on, um, we all make decisions in our lives with the information that we have in front of
Yeah.
us. And if you make those decisions with the best of intentions, even if they don't turn out the way that you wanted them to, that doesn't make you a bad person. And try and put this perspective that if I wake up every day
Mhm.
and I know that a goodness in my heart and I'm a good person and I try and do the right thing,
Yeah.
then I have to be okay with all that comes from
Mhm.
that and accept that I'm not perfect and it's okay not to be perfect. I just want to be a good person. And if I can continue with that, then I have to be okay with not being, everything to everyone. So it's ongoing. But the person that I am today is, I think that I've learned
Mm-hmm.
my own value. I've
Mm-hmm.
learned what I do deserve, and what I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and fill my life with people who are positive and supportive and help others through the
Yeah.
hard times that I've seen, because that's hopefully what we're all here for and why we go through these things, is to help other people. I guess I throw that energy or angst into trying to help other people go through similar situations that, when you're stuck in them, you can't see out. You can only see what's in front of you. And unfortunately, everything's going on
Yeah.
around you, but you're so
And
tunnel focused that you
I
can't
definitely
see
know
it.
how it feels where I feel like it's from what it sounds like, it's kind of having feelings and moments of like kind of like taking inventory to support that to validate that you are a good person. But the one thing that automatically you're a good person is if you're questioning if you are a good person, right? If you're
Yeah, you're right. I know when people when people
hmm
ask me like, "Am I a
for
narcissist?" I'm like,
real.
the fact that you even ask that question means that you probably are not. Because the fact that you're even considering that you're the problem means that you're probably not the problem. If you're trying everything and nothing's working, you're not the problem. You can't fix yourself to fix other people. And I think that when you're in these relationships, you just feel like, well, if I just fix me, then everything will work out because I'm the problem. But again, you're right. If you're examining those things, if you're questioning who you are and what you're doing, and really trying to be the best version of yourself, then I would have a good bet to say that you aren't the problem and you are a good person. Otherwise, you would just walk through life stepping on
Yeah.
people,
If you
which
don't
is
mind me asking,
how
was
narcissists
there
operates.
anyone in your like childhood that made you feel like you are the problem? Because we're typically not born thinking that, you know? Like we're not born thinking I'm the problem, I'm the worst. Like there
Yeah.
has to have been like for me personally, like was severely bullied as a child and I've had people call me worthless and like all of these horrible things around the time where your brain's developing. So the way my therapist explained is like when your brain's developing, think of it like the sidewalk and how what is that called where the cement the cement is like our brain's like cement, and then when everyone's giving you these like label, let's say you're the problem or if you're like you're annoying or you're weird or worthless or whatever, like all of that's in being imprinted into your brain. And then we grow up and we're thinking all these, like if I'm thinking all these thoughts, then I guess it has to be true. But really the reality is there's people who are like those thoughts, like basically you were my question is for you, I know I'm kind of going all over the place, is can you think of were there people I guess in your
No, I
childhood
understand. I
that
understand what you're
made
saying.
you think that you were the problem, which you're totally not. Like, yeah.
No, I can honestly say, like I said, I was a pleaser. Very small family. It was me, my sister, and my parents. I will say that I was responsible for making everyone okay. That was my job. I felt it was my job. My parents would fight, and I would try and make sure,
Mm,
oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And it was my job to be the
that makes
peacekeeper.
sense.
So that is how I grew up thinking of myself, like smile, make everyone happy. And I think that where things really went off the cart, although that would have always been my thing, when Tatum was born and when Colin was sick, mostly when Tatum was born, I became somebody that was outside of that pleaser, because here I was trying to save Tatum. So, when doctors malpractice, whatever, I was constantly
Mm-hmm.
fighting along with, I hate fighting. I hate confrontation, but I was constantly fighting to keep her alive, fighting to keep her something. And I think that I had a lot of negative feedback from that, that I was being unreasonable, or I want to be a nice person. I just want people to think I'm nice. And for so many years, niceness had to take a back seat because I couldn't be nice. I had to be
Mm-hmm.
this warrior to went against everything that I am. So I think I still had some of that left in me, the remorse of having to yell at people, to confront people, to be this person I'm not, to save her. So when I entered in my second relationship, I was already feeling as if I had burned bridges. I had not been nice, yelling at people. I had not done what I needed to do for Colin. I couldn't save him. I couldn't save her. I couldn't. So I
Mm-hmm.
had all those feelings of like, you really blew it, you know? And then here he comes along and says everything that I was already feeling about myself.
Mm-hmm.
All you do is yell at people. Nobody likes you. And this constant, you're the, he would tell me every day, you're the problem. Look at you. All you do is yell at people. And he would push my buttons and then I would react. And then I would think I'm the
Mm-hmm.
problem because why am I yelling at people again? I'm not a yeller. I don't like confrontation. But I was put into that same seat that I hated so much when Tatum was sick and when Colin was sick. And I was being thrust back into it, which made me question, am I really this non confrontational person that I claim to be? Or am I this
Mm-hmm.
warrior that's yelling at doctors and yelling at, who am I? And I think that was the hardest part. I don't know that it started in childhood, but there definitely was a tone in my family like, be nice, be nice. Just I was always told, just be nice, be polite, don't ever question, just do what you're told. And when I didn't anymore is when I really had to
Yeah, so
question
that
who I
makes
was.
sense.
And
So
I
it's
didn't
not
like
much
doing that.
of someone bullying you and imprinting those like thoughts in you. It's more of even though your parents obviously like it is important to be nice, but they I guess it sounds like they made it seem like kind of pushing your needs and your emotions like to the side and not really validating that. And I have a question. Were you the oldest sibling? Oh, really?
No, I
Okay. The
was
reason
the
I asked
youngest.
because usually like with
Yeah.
the oldest sibling, they would like
Yeah.
they would call it parentify them, where the sibling would feel like they have to raise the other siblings, and then so you feel this responsibility, and then you grow up to feel that you have to take care of everybody because your brain was like trained to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think more it
Uh-huh.
was, yeah, my sister and my mom didn't get along, so they were constantly fighting. My
Keep the
parents didn't get
peace.
along, so they were fighting. I was just trying to stop. Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to be a peacemaker. Just everybody go to your own sides. Like, let's just get along. Like, can we all? And I never could get that. Everyone was always upset, and I could feel that. And I feel very uncomfortable when people are upset. I feel very uncomfortable when people are mad. And, that's another reason why my ex-husband, anytime he would get mad, my brain would scramble and I'd say, how can I stop this? How can I make it okay? And I would have gone to the end of the earth. Whatever I need to do to make this stop, I will make it stop. But nothing I did worked. So I just had to keep twisting and turning and he would say one thing and then I'd do that and then that was wrong. So then and it was for someone who just wants peace in their life to not ever be able to find that peace is
Mm-hmm.
torturous. You're on this constant apology tour, constantly apologizing to people, constantly trying to make everything okay. But unfortunately, these kind of personalities, narcissist, sociopath,
Mm-hmm.
you can never make it okay
Yeah.
because it's a design. They don't want it to be okay. And that's how they keep you controlled. So, you can try 20 different ways, nothing works. And then frustration sets in. The frustration leads to like anger and reactions that you're like, where's this coming from? This is not me, but it is you. So then you feel guilty for those reactions. It was just a constant trying to it's like watching a 2-year-old with a puzzle in front of them trying to put, square peg in a circle. It just won't work no matter how many you can slam it, and it just doesn't work. But I wasn't able to walk away and just say, okay,
Yeah.
it's not working because I'm also very
Yeah.
determined.
It sounds
So
like
I
you're an
wasn't going to take
empath.
no for an answer, but I should have. So
Yeah, I think I know it's kind of obvious.
yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, like being
There's
an
no
empath because
question about
I am
that.
too. And so that's the one thing that like I feel like it's like a good thing and a bad thing. You know, like obviously it can be a good
Yes,
thing
I
as
would
in
agree with you.
you can. I guess at least for me, I feel like I mean with me, when I'm doing this right now, doing my podcast, is that it helps me like understand my guests and such. Then as we're like before when I was saying I need to just like process something because my body was just like in the middle of just processing everything that was just happening. So it is good in regards to like human connection, but then really stinks when everyone's angry and you're just like you're
Hmm.
hurting me. You know, it's like it's
Yeah.
yeah yeah
Yeah. Well, I think you absorb. Like I absorb everyone's energy, whether that's positive or negative. And if I've got energy in front of me, because it's not my energy,
Yeah.
I can't work through their energy, but I also can't turn it off. So you're trying to work through what someone else is feeling, but
Yeah.
you can't because it's what they're feeling. You just want to make it go away for them, like let's not feel this way. They
And it's like
they keep feeling that way,
you
and you're
really
just
can't
like,
like do
okay,
anything.
well,
Oh my gosh.
I'll just feel it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
You can't resolve it. And your brain just wants to fix it. Like I'm a fixer too. I'm not
huh.
only an empath, but I'm a fixer. So
Yeah,
I
no.
just want to fix it. I say it's like a sweater. When you have a sweater and there's a snag in it, so you like try and all of a sudden you end up in like you have a ball of yarn because you're like trying to fix a
Yeah,
sweater that
and then also just kind of like
can't be
learning it's like
fixed.
that's the reality. It's like you want to help people, you want to fix, you want to be the fixer, but in reality you're hurting yourself. And it's about just like understanding that and trying to figure out why you feel that way and like trying to like, work on healing yourself. And this is kind of a total like side note I just wanted to say. When it kind of going like back with the empath thing again is I'm an actor and I'm in like acting classes and such, right? And we had to do like vulnerability exercises, and so we had to do like the imaginary monologue where it's like you have an empty seat and then you talk to somebody who has like wronged you, and people really get into it, like crying, screaming, all of that. Now imagine an empath in that room. I was exhausted.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
I'm
some
sure
things were like it was
you're
just
fighting with
I think
yourself.
because it
I
was
can
just
imagine.
back to back to back to back. I think we had like 10 people in the class, so I just like having like 10 trauma
Yeah.
stories back to back. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it is hard. I can't separate myself the way that I should. I'm
Mhm.
always my sister is very good at business. She's been very successful. She can separate how she feels from
Mhm.
something and objectively look at it and make the right decision. I have a very hard time. I have a very hard time saying, I'm going to strip the emotion out of this because I live in a world
Mhm.
where everything is related to an emotion. Like, I wish I didn't. I wish that you could retrain the brain in some ways. But then again, like you said, there are
I wouldn't be here
positives. If,
anymore.
if there were no empaths on Earth,
And that just got real dark.
well, I'm pretty sure no human beings would probably, yeah,
We'll just all attack
the
each
human
other.
race would probably not exist if we were not around. And I'm not taking credit. Yeah, I'm just, we're always kind of the voice of reason to like, let's calm it down, let's be nice. But it is not an easy path. To finally accept that, and I still probably will never accept that you can't change anyone. I'll still try. I don't care how many years
Yeah.
people tell me that. I'm like, okay, well, you believe what you believe, and I'm going to give it a try. I've tried hard not to, and I've tried harder to, throw that energy into the people who not only deserve it, but want it. Cause not everyone, I always thought like I would love if people cared about me the way I care about other people. But I'll be honest, if I was not an empath, it might be irritating. I can see where someone being so overly, let's talk and hug it out. And you're not a talker or a hugger would be like, oh my gosh, will you please just leave me alone? So I can
Mhm.
understand that, to me, I
Yeah.
just want to talk through everything,
So
but
let's get
not
into your
everybody
memoir,
does.
Notes from a Blackberry. So what made you want to share your story publicly?
I
Mhm.
Notes from a Blackberry was written when I took Colin down to chemo. I was coming off the throes of Tatum. So I wrote how we met, and then it flowed into, all the nonsense we went with Tatum, a couple other stories, and then it really flowed into real time. And although I wrote it more to like remember everything we went through, and basically I knew I'd 4 little kids and I knew that they would probably never meet Colin. So I wanted it to be a testament to who he was and how hard he fought to be here. I was writing it during chemo, and then I would email it back to myself, and I pieced it together and I left it on my laptop for 12 years. And I wasn't a writer. I became one during those 12 years. And after divorcing my second husband, I read through it. I finally got the courage because I didn't think I ever could. And my plan was probably to like leave it to my kids and my will. But I read through it, and when I got to the end of it,
Mhm.
it was almost like I was reading someone else's story. And it gave me a different perspective on how much I beat myself up throughout the book. And it's very raw and it's very personal. And you can actually go through the motions of feeling all that I felt that I didn't even acknowledge at the time. After I read it, I thought that people could really benefit from being on the outside, because I benefited from reading it from the outside and it was my story. But I think I wanted it to be a testament to people who are in that position. And if they gave me grace after reading it and could, say, wow, this woman's
Mhm.
really strong. My hope was that they would see the strength in themselves and maybe stop beating themselves up so much and recognize that, during impossible times, you do impossible and unimaginary things because you have to, not because you want to. No one ever chooses to be in the caregiving role. I guess some people do. But you wouldn't want to be in that caregiving role because it meant someone
Mhm.
is sick. And so no one would ever choose for a loved one to be sick. And you're thrust into making these decisions that you don't want to make, doing things that you don't want to do. And it's a daily thing. And then, you have feelings of resentment and then you feel bad for resenting. So I guess working through all those emotions on my own, reading my own story, felt as if hopefully it will touch somebody else who's either knows somebody who's
Yeah.
in that position, because when you're outside of it, you don't know how hard it is to be in the middle of it. You can't possibly. You can imagine, but I remember everybody saying like, Colin looks good when he was really, really sick. And he looked good because he was pretending like I was. And we kept it very under lock and key. We were both pretending
Mhm.
to the world. So my hope is that people stop pretending, start accepting help, start being real about their feelings, and know that you're not burdening somebody either to accept help, because I had a very hard time accepting help.
Yeah.
Or, if somebody says, what can I do? Let them out. But it's very hard when you're in that role to delegate, to even know what to delegate. And definitely you feel like all you have to say is negative, so you
Mhm.
stop talking, and when you stop
Yeah.
talking,
When
that's
you were
when things
talking
go
about that,
really
it kind
bad.
of got me thinking of like, you know what Tumblr is? Okay, so I used to have a Tumblr when I
Yes.
was a teenager. And when I was like 15, 16, 17, I would have a private blog and write all of those dark thoughts that I had as a teenager. And then now I go back to it as an adult and I'm like, who was that girl? I was like, man, I was sad. I was sad.
Don't you wanna give her a hug?
Now I'm thinking like, should
Don't
I
you wanna
like
just go give
it
her
kind
a
of
hug?
like I really like that concept you're talking about. How you go back to reading and you're like you're seeing it from a different perspective because you're not in that headspace anymore. And I think that's so powerful. And that truly shows like an example
It
that
is.
if people are in that headspace that there is hope and of course that's why I do this podcast as well is to bring people on who've been through hell and have gotten through it to like I've interviewed hundreds of people and it's like here's hundreds of stories like this is the truth and it can be hard to see the truth because I mean if you're like going through like depression brain fog like all of that it's like you're kind of like in your own head and it took me so long to like get out of my own head like I still struggle with that but the craziest thing that I had no idea that would help me so much in my mental health is acting classes. Like, it kind of was treated as like therapy to me too because you need to like get out of your own head when you portray a character and all the exercises and I'm like I did not expect this to completely like I kind of want to use a different word
Yeah.
because as you were saying before in the beginning of this episode is like healing is obviously going to be always ongoing so I'm trying to feel like what is a different word we can use than saying it healed me like I guess it supported my healing process or something like you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that it shifts you. You shift the focus, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
very when you learn it, it's almost like a muscle. When you learn to shift through things more
Yeah.
quickly, because I've become very good at shifting through things. I used to sit in things, like if I got sad, it would take my whole week to like pick myself out of it and say it's okay. And I've learned to shift through those emotions much more quickly where I'll feel it for a second and be like, ugh, I feel really bad. But then I'll reason really quickly through, well, did you have the right intention? Did you mean to do that? Is there anything you can do to make it better? If you can't, let it go. And learning to move through those shifts much more quickly than letting them sit and fester and mull over, just kind
Mm-hmm.
of, it's that I've been here before.
Yeah.
I've felt this way before. And I'm still alive. So how do I get to pass this so I don't carry this anymore? Because I think it really It's not just about ongoing healing, it's about letting go of your backpack. I always call it your backpack of emotions. Like we all carry them. And that's when the little things make that backpack really, really heavy and weigh you down when really there's nothing in it. If you just empty the backpack, there's nothing in it. I guess it's kind of abstract, but I think it really does just
Hmm.
involve recognizing the patterns that are destructive to you and reminding yourself, I'm not going to go there again. I'm not, I had a situation, I told you my morning was very chaotic and it was a personal situation where something came up and I always call it the old me. The old me would have probably, called my lawyer and just really circle the wagons and I like the new me because the new me was like, well, what can you do? What are your options? Is that the energy you want to throw into it? Or do you just want to let it go? Whatever happens, address it then. You don't have to you don't have to cure something immediately. You can sit on it, you
Hmm.
can chip away at it, you can recognize it for what it is. But I think sometimes when you think about trying to solve
Yeah,
all
and
of
I
it
like
at
how you
once, I think you can
mentioned
get really, really
like, oh,
stuck in
the
it.
old me. Like I always have to say Justine 1.0 or like 2.0 or whatever. And I think that's
Yeah.
really great that you can recognize that instead of kind of living in autopilot, which I feel like majority of the people do live in autopilot. Yeah, and I like how you say like it's a muscle. So like
It's a lot
for
easier.
example,
Yeah. It's a lot easier.
for people who struggle with, let's say, anxiety or just like depression and all of that, or have like unhealed trauma and such that people don't realize they have because it shows up in your adulthood as anger and depression and all of that. And so I think the easiest example for me to give is, let's say a plate falls and cracks or something like that. Something so simple, and then you're just like, oh, my life is a joke or something, like, you know what I mean? But now you're just like, it doesn't phase you anymore.
Yeah. 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 Because you learn
Hmm.
like not everything is related to one another. I think that was the one thing I had to learn. Like just because one bad
Hmm.
thing happened in my day doesn't mean that everything is bad. And that's kind of how I lived my life for a long time. Like if I woke up, one bad thing
Yeah.
happened, I was convinced that day was going to be a horrible day. And that is how I saw the day, And I think we all do that. And I think we almost feel as if we're protecting ourselves. I almost had a hard time believing good things would happen because if they didn't, I don't want to be disappointed. So I was just going to pre disappoint myself. And, I think that way it's a protection. When people have been hurt, when they've been through
Hmm.
trauma, we build these, I always say like thorns to try and protect others from hurting us or to keep things out or to isolate
Hmm.
ourselves. Because if you're not in my world, you can't hurt me. But unfortunately, when we do that, we're already
Yeah.
like, we're stopping people before they even have a chance to add joy to our lives. And I think that's the whole thing of like, not
Hmm.
everything is related. Just because one bad thing happened, I don't have to circle the wagons. I don't have to make a big issue out of it. I don't even have to address it if I don't want to. And recognizing that the only one you can control is yourself is really the
Hmm.
first step. You can't control what anybody else does, no matter what they're plotting, planning. You can't change anyone but yourself. And your only responsibility is to make yourself happy. So that's what I try and do is just,
Hmm.
okay, what can I do about this? It's not going to ruin my
Hmm.
day. I'm going to let it go because there's nothing I can do about it. But, some days it works, some days it doesn't. I'm not going to lie. It's not like, every day I'm like,
Yeah, it's
today's beautiful because
true.
that would be right back where I was when I was pretending
Yeah, no,
everything
that's
was
so true. That's
beautiful.
really good advice. So you founded the Colin James Barth
Yeah.
Outreach. What moment made you realize you need to create something bigger? So like, let's talk about that. What exactly is that?
So there's been many versions
Hmm.
of me, obviously. I'm a special needs mom, widow, caregiver, divorcee. And when Colin was super sick at his life's end, I
Yeah.
remember promising him that something good was going to come from his suffering. Like for me, the only way to make sense of a really bad situation is to turn it into something good. So I promised him that. And then I got sidetracked and I got remarried and I went through what I went through. I believe that we're all here to learn a lesson. And if we don't learn it, I
Hmm.
believe the universe will keep putting you in the same situation till you do learn that lesson. So coming out of the
Hmm.
second, I reminded myself that I'd made that promise to come. I've been in many situations where people have been there to support and help me. And then I've been in situations where they
Yeah.
haven't. And I will tell you that it's a lot easier when people are there to support you and you're not feeling alone. So I think that most of us, when we go through hard times, or we're like, phew,
Hmm.
and we want to, put it in our past, move on, never think about it again. But I kind of felt this responsibility like, there's a reason why I went through these lessons, and why
Mhm.
should someone else have to suffer through the same thing I did, when if I have this experience and I can help them and help them navigate something, not only will it make me feel better about my past and what I've been through, because then
Yeah.
something good has come from it, but it stop someone else from suffering. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's why I started the charity, to try and address many of the things that I
Yeah.
couldn't get help with or couldn't navigate. Because I think when you hit
Mhm.
crisis, the hardest thing is really even knowing what to do. It's not that you don't want to do something, it's that you don't even, you're so overwhelmed, you don't even know what to do. So, our charity's mission kind of is to take apart your situation wherever you are. And we don't give away a mortgage, we don't give away childcare. What we do is you come to us, you tell us where you're at, we sit down, we help you write a plan with action in it, and we find resources that are available to you so that some of that pressure is taken off, because you can't think and you can't
Mhm.
make good decisions if they're made under duress. Nobody does. So if we can take ease some of that, allow you to some breathing room, and not to make quick, rash, unobjective decisions, and really you can sit with it, gain counsel from others, learn from the mistake of others, then you're probably destined not to make those same mistakes. And it's not
Mhm.
just about you, it's about the children that you're raising, at a time when you're supposed to be home with your kids. Like, if you're getting divorced, then you're thrust into the workplace and your kids are, when they need you most, you don't have any time. So we're trying to overcome all these things that not only make
Mhm.
women's lives harder, but also keep them stuck in abusive relationships. I think a lot of people have this impression that, the whole why'd you stay, that it's all in your head, that, you are keeping yourself in the situation you're in. But, I don't know anyone that doesn't stay for reasons that you can't see, but they're real. They're not just in someone's head. They're really dangerous, because I've seen it. And even if you don't know why you're doing something, there is a motive
Yeah.
behind it that you usually
Yeah,
don't see
definitely.
until you get on the
Yeah,
other
so it
side of
sounds
it.
like, and I think this is great, it's kind of like taking off the edge so you can, yeah, as you're saying, you can finally breathe and you can finally make decisions that doesn't come from scarcity or fear or anything like that. I think that's awesome that you're doing that. How long have you been doing that
Yeah,
for?
yeah. Our charity started in the end of
Okay.
2024 in September. When it first started out, I wanted to give away, I I wanted to do legal fees and mortgages, and everyone
Mhm.
around me was like, "Oh, well, there's already charities out there that do that." And my experience was, well, I couldn't find it when I was going through it. So if they're there, they're not doing a very good job of finding people. Or if
Right.
it's, if a resource is there and you can't find it, then it's not there. So we kind of switched gear. Instead of doing one thing, we decided to fashion ourselves
Mhm.
differently as more of a concierge service, or, consulting service, where we there's 34,000 charities in the state of South Carolina alone. 35, yeah, 34,000. Most of these stores you don't even know about, you can't get to, you can't make the connection, or they don't exist. So, what we've done, or we're in the process of doing, is we're compiling databases so that they're current of all the charities out there in South Carolina, hopefully to extrapolate to the rest of the United States, so that we get a good lay of the land, eligibility requirements, application status, networking, who's in charge of it, what do they provide, so that when you come to us, we can sort through all of our knowledge, set you up with who you need to, this person can pay your utility bill, this person can, and give you those resources so that you can fill all those things out, really see, you know,
Mhm.
what's going on to make a conscious decision. And then
Mhm.
anything that's not covered, we hope to pick up for you. So we are in our infancy. We're still in the, we're still building, we're still trying to get funding, but we have a very, very
Mhm.
clear idea of what we want to do. We're working toward that now, but it
Yeah.
did take us a long time to figure out where we
Definitely. That's
needed to be and
awesome.
what people really needed
So I
from
ask all
us.
of my guests at the end of the podcast is if your healing journey had a theme song, what would it be? Wait,
Here I
hold on a
go
second.
again on my
So
own.
I add this
What's that
to a
song? I don't even
Spotify
know what it is.
playlist. It's curated by all my guests. So yeah, it's called the podcast after
Yeah,
party.
nice.
Okay, because like I always add it like as we're talking, just because I
Mm,
don't want to forget, and I also want to make sure I find the song. Wait, so what is it again?
yeah.
White Snake?
I think it's White Snake. And I
White
don't even
Snake.
know
Here I
how
go.
I know that. I think it's called Here I Go Again. I know. Yeah, I think you have to get, yeah,
Is it?
that would be it.
Okay. Awesome. Let me go ahead and add this real quick before I
Yeah, yeah. And
down.
don't blame me if you hate the song. It's very cheesy. I don't know why it just stuck in my head because I feel like every time I find solid ground, something else
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
along.
That's
I'm just better
honestly,
equipped now to fight
that
it.
totally
So,
makes sense. And as you're saying, like, yeah, like a lot of stuff can keep happening, but yeah, you're more equipped to like handle it now. And I think that's awesome. Okay, I'm adding to playlist. Cool. I got 56 songs in it. Well, half of it's kind of like I originally started the playlist, like me curating
it's a
just
lot
like
of
certain
songs.
songs that have certain moods. But I'm like, you know what? Let me have my guest curate it. I just feel like that's just more fun and it's more unique. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Okay,
fun.
Julie.
I
Well, I
like
want to say
that.
thank you so much for taking your
Yeah.
time to come on the podcast, being vulnerable and talking about your story, which takes a lot of courage. And you're awesome. Just remember that. I feel like I need to remind you that you have great teeth and that, and that you're awesome internally as well.
Thank
So I
you.
just want to say thank you so much and I appreciate you.